Alien Family Reunion by Johnson Davies. Chapter 1. The Sky Above San Diego. Ben Chappell had a rhythm. Wake at 6. Coffee at 6:05. Construction site by 7. Lunch at noon. Kiss Sophie at 5:30. Sleep by 10. Repeat. His life was a well-oiled machine, until the sky above San Diego shimmered like a disco ball having an existential crisis. It started with a hum, not the kind you hear from power lines or bees. This hum had substance. It vibrated through Ben's fillings and made his neighbor's dog bark help in Morse code. Ben looked up from his porch, coffee in hand, and saw nothing. Which was the problem? 12 cloaked ships hovered above his cul-de-sac, invisible to everyone except the squirrels, who began hoarding acorns like it was the end times. Then came the knock. Not on the door, on the roof. Ben climbed a ladder, expecting a raccoon. Instead, he found his Uncle Yort chewing on a cuckoo clock and muttering, "Delicious." Slightly Swiss. Ben blinked. "Yort?" "Time Lord," Yort corrected, swallowing the pendulum. "Your father said Earth was quaint. I like quaint. Tastes like quartz." Ben's stomach dropped. He knew this day would come. He just didn't expect it to arrive via ceiling knock and horological cannibalism. From the ship above, a hatch opened. Out floated Aunt Carney, dressed in a robe covered in cat hair and reeked of tuna. She bowed to a tabby on the fence and whispered, "Your Majesty." Ben groaned. The family reunion had begun, and Earth wasn't ready. Chapter 2. The Cloaked Caravan. Ben stared at the sky like it owed him an apology. Ben's phone buzzed. It was from his dad. "They're here. Be nice." Ben typed back, "Define nice." From the clouds, a shimmering ripple descended like a curtain call. One by one, the ships uncloaked, sleek iridescent vessels shaped like upside-down hubcaps with mood lighting. They parked above Ben's cul-de-sac like they owned the HOA. The neighbors didn't notice. They were too busy arguing about mulch. Ben's front yard became a landing zone. Aunt Carney floated down in a hover chair made of recycled tuna cans, flanked by 2 cats she referred to as her royal advisors. "Earth smells like anxiety," she declared, sniffing the air. "And cheese." Uncle Yort arrived next, riding a stadium game clock like a surfboard. He dismounted, licked the home team readout, and said, "Spicy." Cousin Silt teleported into the rose bushes, abducted a garden gnome, and vanished with a giggle that sounded like dial-up internet. Ben rubbed his temples. "You said 12 ships. That's a lot of relatives." His dad emerged from the shadows wearing a Hawaiian shirt and a tie with pineapples on it. "It's a small gathering." "Just the immediate family." Ben pointed to the sky. "That one's shaped like an old shoe." "That's Grandma's. She likes comfort." Ben sighed. The reunion had officially landed, and San Diego would never be the same. Chapter 3. Uncle Yort, Time Lord, sort of. Ben found Yort in the garage, gnawing on the microwave. "Yort," Ben said slowly, "that's not food." Yort paused mid-bite. "It tells time. Therefore, it is edible." He swallowed the digital display like a communion wafer and burped out the words, "popcorn setting." Ben sighed. "You can't just eat things because they tick." Yort looked offended. "I am a Time Lord. I consume chronology. I digest destiny. I snack on seconds." Ben pointed to the wall. "You ate my grandfather clock. It was deliciously antique. You chewed through my Fitbit. Sporty." Ben opened the fridge. Inside sat a half-eaten egg timer, a wristwatch marinating in salsa, and a sundial wrapped in foil. Yort beamed. "I'm meal prepping." Ben rubbed his temples. "You're going to give the neighbors a temporal crisis." Yort shrugged. Time is relative. I'm just hungry. Ben tried logic. If you eat all the clocks, how will we know when to meet? Yort blinked. We'll feel it. In our bones. Ben stared. That's not how bones work. Yort leaned in, whispering like a prophet. Your femur knows when it's brunch. Ben backed away slowly. I'm getting Dad. He'll talk sense into you. Yort nodded solemnly. Bring him. I have a pocket watch souffle cooling in the oven. Ben fled. Behind him, Yort licked the blender and declared it chronologically crunchy. Chapter 4. The Gnome Abduction Protocol. Ben found Silt crouched in the azaleas, whispering to a ceramic gnome named Gerald. Don't worry, Silt cooed. You'll be safe aboard the mothership. No more rain. No more lawnmower threats. Ben blinked. Silt. That's a lawn decoration. Silt gasped. How dare you? Gerald is a war hero. Look at his beard. He's seen things. Ben stepped closer. You can't abduct lawn ornaments. People will notice. Silt held up a tiny rake. He comes with tools. He's self-sufficient. Ben glanced across the street. Mrs. Pennington's yard was missing 5 gnomes and 1 flamingo. Silt had built a shrine in the garage, ceramic figures arranged in a circle, lit by LED candles and pulsing with alien energy. I'm forming a council of elders, Silt explained. They'll advise me on Earth customs. Ben pinched the bridge of his nose. You're forming a gnome government. Provisional, Silt clarified, until we can hold elections. Ben opened the garage fridge. Inside sat a gnome head next to a jar of pickles. Silt waved. That's Gerald's brother. He's in cryostasis, Ben groaned. You're going to get us arrested, Silt shrugged. They're safer with me. Earth is hostile to small ceramic life forms. Ben turned to leave. Silt called after him. If Gerald runs for mayor, we expect your vote. Ben didn't answer. He was too busy Googling how to return stolen gnomes without getting shot. Chapter 5. Carney and the Cat Conspiracy. Aunt Carney stood in the middle of Ben's living room, arms raised, chanting in a language that sounded suspiciously like purring. 3 cats sat in a semicircle before her, 1 tabby, 1 calico, and 1 orange blur named Tornado. They blinked in unison, unimpressed but tolerant. Ben entered with a broom. Carney, why are there cats in my house? Carney turned slowly, eyes wide with reverence. They summoned me. Ben pointed to Tornado. He summoned you by charging through the doggy door and landing in the potted fern. Carney bowed. A dramatic entrance. Clearly a sign of power. Ben sighed. You can't worship cats, Carney gasped. Can't? Ben, they rule this planet. I've seen the evidence. Humans feed them expensive delicacies, build portals in their doors, and speak to them in baby voices. Ben rubbed his temples. That's called pet ownership. Carney pulled out a scroll made of lint and tuna labels. I've drafted a treaty. I seek feline alliance. Ben read the scroll. It included clauses like unlimited belly rubs, no vet visits, and mandatory sunbeam access. Carney whispered, I've already signed on behalf of the Galactic Confederation. Tornado licked his paw and knocked over a lamp. Carney gasped. He's rejecting the treaty. Ben groaned. He's rejecting gravity. Carney dropped to one knee. I must renegotiate. Ben backed away slowly. I'm going to check on Silt. He's building a gnome embassy. Carney nodded solemnly. Tell him the cats are neutral. For now. Chapter 6. Suspended Realities. Ben had one rule. No ceiling sleeping. It was a simple request. A plea, really. Earthlings sleep on beds, not like bats, not naked, not humming lullabies in frequencies that made the paint peel. But the aliens disagreed. Gravity is oppressive, Aunt Carney declared, dangling upside down in the hallway like a velvet chandelier. We sleep in liberation. Ben installed hammocks. They used them as hats. He tried bunk beds. They used them as launch platforms. He begged them to wear clothes. They compromised by wearing socks and calling it Earth formal wear. Then Sophie came over. Ben had 10 minutes to make the house look normal. He shoved a gnome council into the closet, duct-taped a microwave back together, and bribed Tornado the cat with salmon to stop patting Carney on the head. Sophie stepped inside. "Why does your ceiling look dented?" Ben smiled too wide. Earthquake preparedness, very proactive. She pointed to a sock stuck to the ceiling fan. "Is that moving?" Ben laughed nervously. "Draft physics. Very advanced." Then came the sound. A low melodic hum, like a war chant sung by a blender. Sophie froze. "Ben, is someone singing in the attic?" Ben panicked. "Nope, that's just the plumbing. Very temperamental." Aunt Carney floated past the hallway, upside down, wearing a cat bed on her head and humming in binary. Sophie blinked. "Ben, what is going on?" Ben swallowed. "I can explain." He couldn't. Not yet. Chapter 7. The Great Clothing Debate. Ben stood in the living room holding a pair of khakis like they were sacred scrolls. "This," he said slowly, "are pants. You wear them on your legs, not your head, not your elbows. Legs." Uncle Yort examined the khakis, then draped them over his shoulders like a ceremonial cape. "I feel powerful." "No," Ben said. "You look like a drunk accountant." Cousin Silt wore a sock on each hand and declared himself the ambassador of texture. Aunt Carney had fashioned a robe from bath mats and duct tape. "I call this the Earth royalty. Look." Ben groaned. "You can't just invent fashion." "There are rules," Carney scoffed. "Earthlings wear ties around their necks, like leashes. Your species is clearly into bondage." Ben blinked. "That's not. Okay, we're moving on." He held up a t-shirt. "This is casual wear." Yort sniffed it. "Smells like Tuesday." Silt tried to eat it. Ben snatched it back. "No eating the wardrobe." Carney pointed to a cat lounging on the windowsill. "He wears nothing, and he rules the world." Ben sighed. "Cats are exempt. You are not cats." The aliens huddled. There was murmuring. A vote was taken. A sock was sacrificed to the dryer god. Finally, they emerged in mismatched outfits, plaid shirts, cargo pants, one tutu, and a single bathrobe worn backwards. Ben stared. "Close enough?" Yort saluted. "We are now Earth normal." Silt abducted a mannequin from the mall to use as a fashion consultant. Ben didn't stop him. He was too tired. Chapter 8. Sophie's Sixth Sense. Sophie didn't believe in ghosts, but Ben's house felt haunted by something weirder than spirits, something organized and crazy. The air buzzed faintly, like static wrapped in a moan. The walls pulsed with a rhythm she couldn't place. Not music, not plumbing. Something sentient. She ran her fingers along the hallway wallpaper. It was warm. Breathing. Ben emerged from the kitchen holding a tray of mismatched snacks, frozen waffles, a single grape, and what looked suspiciously like a melted sundial. "Hungry?" he asked, too cheerfully. Sophie squinted. "Why does your thermostat say Thursday?" Ben glanced at it. "It's experimental. Climate meets calendar." She wandered into the guest room. The bed was untouched. Above it, 12 hooks dangled from the ceiling. One still spun gently, as if recently vacated. Ben, she called, are you hosting Cirque du Soleil? Ben appeared behind her, sweating. Just redecorating. She opened the closet. Inside, a mannequin dressed in socks, a cat throne made of back scratchers, and a gnome wearing a sash labeled Foreign Minister. Sophie turned slowly. Ben, are you in a cult? Ben hesitated. Not officially. She stepped closer. Your house smells like ozone and lemons. Ben nodded solemnly. That's the air freshener. Alien citrus. Sophie didn't laugh. She didn't blink. She just whispered, I think I need to sit down. From the attic, a soft chime rang out, like a grandfather clock crying. Ben closed his eyes. The truth was coming. Chapter 9. The BBQ Incident. Ben had one goal, blend in. So, when Uncle Yort suggested a traditional Earth feast, Ben thought, great. Burgers, hot dogs, normal. Instead, Yort grilled a satellite dish. It's rich in signal flavor, he explained, flipping it like a pancake. Cousin Silt set up a buffet of gnome-shaped tofu, each one carved with ceremonial runes. They're symbolic, he whispered, of peace. Aunt Carney invited every cat in the neighborhood. They arrived in waves, lounging on lawn chairs, licking the guacamole, and judging the potato salad. Ben tried to salvage things. He lit citronella candles. He played jazz. He wore khakis. Then the neighbors arrived. Mrs. Pennington blinked at the satellite dish. Is that direct TV? Yort handed her a plate. It's marinated in cosmic rays. Mr. Alvarez bit into a gnome tofu and began speaking fluent Esperanto. Carney bowed to a tabby named Lord Pickles and declared him Supreme Grillmaster. Ben's best friend Dave showed up, saw Silt levitating a watermelon, and muttered, I knew it. You're in a cult. Ben pulled him aside. It's a reunion with eccentric relatives. Dave pointed to the sky. That spaceship just blinked at me. Ben looked up. The cloaked vessel had activated its mood lighting. It spelled HI in blinking letters. Then the fire department arrived. Someone had reported unusual heat signatures and feline congregation. Ben panicked. Yort burped. Silt abducted the fire truck's emergency lights. Carney offered the chief a cat food canapé. Ben smiled weakly. Welcome to the party. Chapter 10. Government Eyes and Gnome Lies. It started with a drone flyover. Not the hobby kind. This one had a badge and a suspiciously judgmental lens. Ben spotted it hovering above the backyard, scanning the BBQ wreckage. Melted satellite dish, gnome tofu residue, and a cat lounging on a castle made of lawn chairs. He waved casually. The drone beeped. Aunt Carney waved back. The drone exploded. Ben screamed. Yort burped. Silt abducted the debris. Evidence, Silt whispered, cradling the smoking lens. We'll repurpose it as a ceremonial amulet. Ben dragged him inside. You just vaporized a government drone. Yort shrugged. It was rude. Ben's phone buzzed. Blocked number. We'd like to ask you a few questions about recent aerial anomalies in your area. Ben typed back. I build patio decking. Blocked number. We're watching your ceiling. Ben dropped the phone. Outside, a black SUV parked across the street. Two men in suits stepped out, looked at the sky, then at Ben's house. One took notes. The other sniffed the air. Ben turned to his family. We need to be normal. Right now. Carney put on sunglasses and began meowing in Japanese. Silt wore a trench coat made of plastic flamingos. Yort tried to eat the SUV's shortwave antenna. Ben screamed into a sofa pillow. Then Sophie arrived. She saw the suits. She saw the aliens. She saw Ben hyperventilating into a paper bag labeled Plan B. She walked up calmly. Ben, are you being investigated? Ben nodded. Sophie took his hand. Then let's give them a show. Ben blinked. What? She smiled. You wanted normal. I say we go full sitcom. Ben stared. Then he smiled. The curtain was rising. Chapter 11, Alien Etiquette 101. Ben stood in front of a whiteboard labeled How Not to Get Arrested. The aliens sat cross-legged on the living room floor, dressed in mismatched Earth clothes and radiating confusion. Rule 1, Ben began. No abducting objects with faces. That includes gnomes, flamingos, and mailboxes. Silt raised a hand. What if the mailbox winks first? Ben blinked. It won't. Yort scribbled winking mailboxes equals safe in a notebook made of boxer shorts. Rule 2, Ben continued. Greetings on Earth do not involve licking foreheads. Connie looked disappointed. But it's how we share dreams. Ben sighed. Here, we use words, or handshakes, or awkward nods. Rule 3, he said. Do not hum in frequencies that make appliances cry. Yort burped. The toaster wept. Ben turned to the window. Outside, the neighborhood mailboxes had gathered in protest, lined up in a semicircle, flags raised, one wearing a tiny sash that read unionized. Silt gasped. They've formed a resistance. Ben groaned. They've formed a labor organization. Carney stepped forward. We must negotiate. No, Ben said. We must apologize. Yort raised a ceremonial scepter made from the drone debris. I shall offer them my time jelly recipe. Ben grabbed the scepter. You'll offer them your silence. The doorbell rang. It was the HOA president, flanked by 2 men in suits and a cat wearing a monocle. Ben smiled weakly. Welcome. We were just rehearsing a play. Carney bowed. A tribute to Earth's majestic postal system. The cat meowed. The suits took notes. Ben whispered, We're doomed. Chapter 12. The Cat Uprising. It began with a meow. Not just any meow. This one echoed through the cul-de-sac like a war horn dipped in sass. Lord Pickles, the monocled tabby, stood atop Ben's mailbox, flanked by a dozen feline followers. Each wore a tuna can medallion and carried a laser pointer like a ceremonial blade. Aunt Carney knelt before them. Your Majesty, she whispered, the time has come. Ben stepped outside with a broom. What is happening? Carney rose, eyes blazing. The cats have declared their independence. Ben blinked. From what? Gravity, rules, the tyranny of closed doors. Ben looked around. Every cat in San Diego had gathered, lounging on rooftops, perched on fences, one operating a drone with its paw. Carney unfurled a scroll. They demand tribute, salmon, shrines, unlimited sunbeam access. Ben rubbed his temples. They already have all that. Carney nodded. But now they want formal recognition. Silt appeared, wearing a cape made of lint. I've been appointed feline ambassador. I speak fluent purr. Ben groaned. You speak fluent chaos. Yort arrived, chewing on a wall clock. The cats have no concept of time. I admire that. Ben turned to Sophie. Please tell me this isn't happening. Sophie handed him a tuna can. It's happening. Might as well negotiate. The cats meowed in unison. Carney translated. They want a parade. Ben sighed. Fine, but no throne. Lord Pickles blinked. Carney gasped. He's agreed. You may live. Ben looked at the sky. The aliens were weird, but the cats, they were terrifying. Chapter 13. Sophie's Discovery. Sophie didn't sleep, not because of the cats chanting outside, or the gnome council glowing faintly in the garage, or the fact that Ben's microwave now displayed horoscopes instead of time. She didn't sleep because she knew Ben was hiding something, and she was done pretending not to notice. At dawn, she returned to his house. The sky shimmered faintly, like a sneeze in the fabric of reality. A cloaked ship blinked overhead. She rang the doorbell. Ben opened the door wearing 2 different shoes and a shirt that read, "I am definitely human." Sophie stepped inside. "Tell me everything." Ben hesitated. "Define everything." She crossed her arms. "Start with the footprints on the ceiling and end with the gnome ambassador." Ben sighed. "Okay, I'm half alien. My dad's side is enthusiastic. They came for a reunion. They eat clocks, worship cats, sleep upside down, and abduct lawn ornaments." Sophie blinked. "That's oddly specific." Ben nodded. "It's also true." She sat down. "So, you're part alien." Ben sat beside her. "But I'm also part human." "Part Earth, part guy who just wants to build patios and kiss his girlfriend without worrying about intergalactic diplomacy." Sophie looked at him. "You should have told me." "I was scared." "Of me?" "Of losing you." She took his hand. "Ben, I've dated worse. One guy thought he was a reincarnated PT cruiser." Ben laughed. "Yort would have eaten him." Sophie smiled. "So what now?" Ben looked out the window. The cats were assembling. The gnomes were voting. The sky was blinking. He turned to her. "Now we survive brunch." Chapter 14. The Parade of Authority. Sophie had never organized a parade before, especially not one led by cats, advised by gnomes, and sponsored by a satellite-eating uncle. But she was in now, fully, irrevocably, gloriously in. Lord Pickles, monocled and majestic, sat atop a float made from Ben's wheelbarrow and a dozen lawn flamingos. His feline entourage followed in formation, each perched on hover discs borrowed from the cloaked ships above. Carney narrated the procession through a megaphone shaped like a lint brush. "Behold Earth's rulers, their grace, their whiskers." Ben handed out snacks labeled diplomatic treats. They were just goldfish crackers, but the branding helped. Silt marched beside the float, tossing gnome-shaped confetti and shouting, "Peace through purring." Yort played a xylophone made of melted clocks. The rhythm was confusing but oddly inspiring. The neighbors emerged from their homes, drawn by the spectacle. Some clapped, some filmed. One tried to join the parade dressed as a calico. He was politely escorted out by a tabby named Justice. Sophie stood beside Ben, clipboard in hand, headset on, radiating competence. "You're really doing this," Ben said, awe in his voice. She smiled. "If I can survive your family, I can survive anything." Ben took her hand. "You're amazing." She squeezed back. "You're weird." "But I like weird." The parade reached the cul-de-sac's end. Lord Pickles raised a paw. The crowd bowed instinctively. Carney wept. Ben looked around, at the cats, the aliens, the gnomes, the neighbors. Somehow it worked. Somehow this was home. Chapter 15. Alien Karaoke and Earth Diplomacy. The living room had been converted into a karaoke lounge. Yort stood center stage, belting out a binary ballad that made the washing machine cry soapy tears and the cat army sway in rhythm. Silt played backup on a microwave keyboard. Aunt Carney meowed harmonies in 3 octaves. Ben watched from the couch, sipping alien punch and wondering if his drywall would ever emotionally recover. Sophie leaned in. "This is weird." Ben nodded. "This is my family." The two government agents sat in folding chairs, visibly confused. One tapped his pen to the beat. The other tried to sing along and accidentally summoned a weather balloon. Carney took the mic. "We dedicate this next song to Earth. May your tuna be fresh and your sunbeams eternal." The cats applauded. The gnomes wept. The HOA president stood and declared, "I move to recognize this as a cultural exchange." Everyone cheered. Ben turned to Sophie. "We might actually pull this off." She smiled. "You already did." Outside, the cloaked ships blinked in approval. One played a holographic slideshow of the reunion, gnome councils, feline parades, and Ben screaming into a pillow. Inside, the karaoke continued. Earth had not been invaded. It had been serenaded. Chapter 16. Ben Chappell, Earth's Ambassador. The next morning, the ships prepared to leave. Ben stood in his yard, surrounded by cats, gnomes, and relatives dangling from the porch ceiling like festive lanterns. Yort handed him a watch made of stardust. "To remember us by." Silt gave him a gnome passport for future abductions. Carney bowed. "You are now Earth's ambassador to the feline empire." Ben blinked. "Do I get a salary?" Carney shrugged. "You get cats to keep you warm." Sophie kissed his cheek. "And you get me." The ships rose silently, cloaked once more. The sky shimmered. The squirrels saluted. Ben turned to his house. It was dented. It was humming. It was home. He opened a new folder on his laptop. Alien-friendly construction designs, ceiling hammocks, cat portals, gnome bunkers. He smiled. Normal was too overrated. Family quirks were better. The end. Please like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you.